How do you sound more natural, even if you're working off of a paper text and things like that? Well, today we're going to be talking about some things that you want to consider, especially when it comes to lists that are going to help you to say them in a way that not only sounds more natural, but also more engaging, more dynamic, more like someone that other people want to listen to and are intrigued by. Good morning, guys. Good evening. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Express. This is a show right around 10:30 a.m. at New York on Thursdays, where we take a look at a text and talk about some strategies that you can do from a communication standpoint. And to guide you in this process, there is me. What's up, guys? My name is Jeff. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to pull up our text for today, and we also have a student to kind of do some exercises with us as well. So we have Gansham. Gansham, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Perfect. All right. Well, it's good to see you, sir. Thanks for hanging out with me a little bit. So we're going to be looking at this text from Paul Laurence Dunbar, who's a poet. This is from a poem called Life. Whenever you're ready, take a moment to kind of just read this to yourself. Okay, and if you're watching along with us live or on the replay, take a moment to do that as well. And if you're listening to the audio version, just give us a second and we'll be with this text. But Ganchin, whenever you're ready, can you just read this entire section for me?
A crust of bread and a corner to sleep in, a minute to smile and an hour to weep in, a pint of joy to peck of trouble, and never laugh but the moon come double, and that is life.
Thank you. All right, before I get into what I'd like to focus on today, did you have any questions for me about anything you just did?
Uh, I don't have a question.
Okay, great. So I've kind of marked off where you created thought groups. And again, if you're not sure what thought groups are basically all the groups of words that we put together before our next group of words. Because we don't just talk in one word at a time, we're going to group things together. Okay, and this is not unique to English. This is going to happen in any language you talk in. There's groups of words that you chunk. Okay. And I think the way that you chunk this is fine. I don't have an issue with these thought groups. You're kind of following grammar. So when I say following grammar, what I mean is you kind of have like little phrases, like a crust of bread. So you have that little noun phrase, and a corner to sleep in. So then you're breaking right around that and then doing the same thing. A minute to smile, and then you're doing the same thing on the second line. In the third line, you doing the same thing as well. A pine of joy. You have that noun phrase again. Then you have a prepositional phrase to a peck of trouble. So basically, what you're doing is you're breaking up everything based on grammar. That's fine. What I would say is that when we actually listen to people talk conversationally, it's not going to be so neat all the time. So it's not just that, like, oh, if you have a comma, it's going to stop at the comma, or if there's a period, it's going to stop at the period. Like, a lot of times, things are going to keep flowing a little bit more. But we can use these for today. One of the things that we want to consider with thought groups as well is that when you have a thought group, from an English perspective, that tells you already a lot of information because every thought group is going to have one primary word that's going to receive stress. Okay, so like a crust of bread, the way you read that, you put the stress on bread, and that's very logical. In general, the stress wants to go as late as possible on content words. Content words are words like nouns, like bread, or adjectives, like red or tall, or verbs. Okay, so that's a typical pattern you're going to see here. We have our thought group, we have our stressed word, and then the last thing that I'll say about this is that when you have a thought group and you know where the stress is, one thing you want to consider in terms of how this is read, your stress is going to go up in pitch. And if I don't stress you, then I'm generally going to move down. Okay. So the pattern you would expect a thought group like this to take for that first thought group would be something like this. Like a crust of bread, a crust of bread. One, two, three, four. A crust of bread. Okay. Any questions so far on anything I just said right there?
This is a down, down, down.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So bread is your stress. So bread's where you go up. Everything else is going to just generally move down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I
Other
read this
questions?
first line?
I'm sorry. Can you say that one more time?
Can I read this first line?
Sure. Go for it.
A crust of bread and cornered sleeping.
Okay, so the way you read it right there is very different than how you read it the first time. You added a lot of thought groups. You're like, crust. Then you stopped of bread.
Okay, okay.
And so the thing that if you watch this on the replay, one of the things that you did was you added a lot of thought groups. You basically had 4 or 5 thought groups there, which means you added a lot of stresses. And the result of that, when you have more thought groups and you have more stresses, what that does is it makes it choppier. Okay, because
Yeah.
you're constantly going up and down and up and down and up and down, and that makes things sound less smooth. It's not necessarily a problem, but it can make things sound more challenging for people to listen to because you're making them work harder.
Yeah.
So, one of the other things that we want to consider too is that when you have a thought group, we want to make sure that when you start a new thought group, we need to start changing more. Because if I read this whole thing as like a crust of bread, a corner to sleep in, a minute to smile, an hour to weep in, a pint of joy, like that starts becoming really challenging for people who are listening to you. And it becomes challenging because everything starts blending in. All the pitches are the same. The speed is the same. The firmness is the same. The even things like where you're putting your stresses. Notice that a lot of your stresses when you read this, you're stressing bread, you're stressing sleep, minute to smile, an hour to weep in. What do you see happening if I put all the stresses here? A crust of bread and a corner to sleep in, a minute to smile, an hour to weep in. What do you see happening with the stresses?
There is a lot of spaces. If I one stress the first line and second line, that will be a better.
I mean, we'll talk about alternatives in a moment because you can make this work. Even this pattern here can work fine. But the thing we have to be mindful of, the other thing that you're doing, what I was looking for is that notice that your stresses are all coming in the same spot. All of your sentences are doing this down, 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 up. A crust of bread and a corner to sleep in, a minute to
Yeah.
smile, an hour to wait. All of these thought groups are doing this pattern. All of
Yeah.
them are falling into this pattern. And this gets into the central concept with English. And honestly, it's not just English. If you listen to people who are good at public speaking or just speaking in general, even in your first language, what you're going to find is that we need to develop an awareness of patterns and breaking them. Okay, we talk about this a lot. Patterns are when you have a situation that occurs 3 or more times. 2 isn't quite a pattern yet because with 2, it's starting to become a pattern, but it could also just be random. So we don't have enough information. But once we get to like 3, that's when it's like, oh, this is a pattern. Okay. And people are really good at finding patterns. People are really good at it. So what we want to do as speakers is we want to try to disrupt. We don't like patterns because what they can do is they can make it hard to separate parts of what you say. They can also make you lose interest. Okay, but if I don't know what comes next, I'm more intrigued. I'm more willing to listen and see what happens. It creates a loop. As soon as I think I know what the next step is going to be, I don't care anymore. I'm out. I'm not interested. Okay, like a joke works best the first time. A joke does not work as well the second time unless I'm telling it to someone new because now it's the first time for them. Okay. Same thing with
Yeah.
stories. Same thing with like magic. Okay, a magic trick does not work the second time. If I know how the magic trick works, I don't care about the magic trick anymore unless I'm showing it to someone else. We need surprise. So let's talk about lists because this poem is basically just a list. We're just talking about a lot of different things. We got a crust of bread. That's your first element. A corner to sleep in, that's your second element. A minute to smile, that's your third element. Hour to weep in, that's your fourth element. And it goes on and on and on. So basically, this is just a list. That's all this is. And we need lists. We use lists all the time. But we can make our list a little bit more engaging. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to practice trying to add some surprise. We're going to try to mix it up. We're going to try to break some of the patterns that we're using in order to make this sound a little bit more dynamic and engaging for our listener. Okay, we're going to do this thought group by thought group and kind of build together. And what I will say before this is there's a million ways to do this. So don't think that the way we're going to handle it right now is the only way. It's just one possibility. Okay, so let's read this first thought group. Can you read this first part for me again, just down the bread?
A crust of bread and corner
Okay,
to
hang on,
sleep
hang on.
in.
I'm just going to stop you there. We're just worried about this first thought group. That's all we're worried about. Can you read that one more time for me? A crust of bread?
A crust of bread,
Okay.
a crust of bread.
Okay. One of the things I'm noticing is that your consonant sounds are very heavy. It's like here, especially on crust. Crust. Listen to when I say crust. If I say crust 3 times, crust, 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 crust. Can you
Crust,
say crust 3 times for me?
crust,
Do that again?
crust.
That's a bit better. Yeah, so it's not crust, 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 because that's going to be that crust sound and that T. We don't want that. That's the least important part of the word. The most important part of the word is your vowel for English. Okay, so we really need that. Can you just say the 3 schwa sounds for me? Just like
Uh, 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 uh,
But you can hear that even that's a little choppy. It's like You hear how like the breath is interrupting them. Try to have it flow a little bit more.
uh, uh,
Good. Okay, now can you say crust 3 times, trying to keep that breath flowing? Crust, crust, crust.
crust.
Yeah, you're still chopping a little bit on crust again. Crust, crust, crust.
I, I, I always be difficult to CR cluster all the time.
I mean, this is a big thing for us. Your first, like, you speak an Indian language, right? Like Hindi or Bengali or
Yeah,
Urdu or okay.
yeah, yeah. I'm speak Marathi language.
Okay, got you. Okay, these are languages that are very consonant based. They're very heavy on the consonants. Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
and English is the exact opposite of that. Okay, so we need to flow. We need to give the more space to the vowels. Like again, cross, 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 cross. Yeah, one more time.
Uh, cross. Cross.
Okay, the good news is when you're doing the part, that's pretty flowy. But when you're doing it with the words, we're losing that. So that's something I want you to continue practicing a bit. Okay, because we are losing it there. Um,
That is a problem. CR cluster is difficult to me sometimes.
Okay, don't worry so much about, but it's not really about the CR. I mean, I get it, but that CR sound makes like a
Yeah,
her.
yeah,
Okay, it has that R
yeah.
sound. The R sound is pretty much a vowel. Okay, so focusing on that, it's like trying to get that
Cr-
just trying to keep it flow. So the difference between
cr-
mine and yours there is that you can hear that k sound really heavy, like k, but we don't really care about that part. It makes like okay, yeah, because it doesn't really make a cr. It doesn't really do that. It makes a cr. Okay, but let's go back to our central focus for right now. Can you say a crust of bread for me?
A crust of bread. A
Okay.
crust of bread.
So what's happening here is when you're saying it, you're like a crust of bread. So you're getting like this very hilly or very mountainous even. And it's this very rocky experience. You're kind of giving me a crust of bread. Okay.
Yeah.
The central idea with English is that we want hills, not mountains. We're trying to smooth everything out. Okay. So we don't really want that sort of experience. We want something that kind of like flows more. Okay. So it's not a crust of bread as much like a crust of bread, a crust of bread, a crust of bread. Can you try
Yeah.
doing that for me?
A crust of bread. A crust of bread.
Okay, so something I need you to
A
note in the
crust of
replay.
bread.
You're still giving me that first one. You're still giving me this like a crust of bread versus like a crust of bread, a crust
Yeah.
of bread. Can you say for me?
Aggressive. Uh,
Okay. Let's just keep working our way down. Can you say crust?
cra,
You gotta go down a little bit more, and don't stop the breath. Keep the breath flowing the entire time.
cra, cra,
Notice that you're like but I'm way faster than that.
cra, cra,
You're like
cra,
So what the sound you're giving me is you're like but I'm saying There's a difference. Do you hear the difference?
cra, cra,
Try to keep the breath flowing a little bit more from the first syllable to the second.
cra, cra, cra,
Can you just say Can you just after me?
uh,
So the difference, you're still giving me kind of like this very rocky experience because you're kind of saying, I know we're going slow here, but if you're having this challenge with the pitch, there's going to be other people as well. You're kind of doing this huge drop, uh, cruh. That's a very steep drop. Okay,
yeah,
I'm trying to
yeah,
smooth it, so it's not cruh. It's more cruh. Try to smooth it out. Cruh, cruh,
uh,
cruh. Okay.
cra,
And basically, we're going to keep working our way down. So it's like can you do like
cra.
1, 2, 3? Can you do that for me? 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
That wasn't what I did. So what you just did, you're like 1, 2, 3. You went up on 3. I went down on 3. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
You're still going up on 3. You're like 1, 2, 3 versus 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
You're still 1, 2, 3 versus 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
1,
1,
2,
2,
3.
3.
1,
1,
2,
2.
3.
Okay.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
The other thing too is your consonant sounds are still very heavy. You hear 1, 2, 3, like the T sound on 2 and that
Yeah,
THR on 3. So you gotta watch out for that. But
yeah.
let's add our fourth one, okay? So
Okay.
basically, the pattern for this across the bread is gonna be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Can you say it for me?
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So what I hear you doing is you're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, versus mine's like 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you see that mine's more descending? 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And yours is just jumping like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you hear the difference between 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4? Do you hear a difference?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I need you to practice this. This is really key because if we struggle with this, we're going to struggle with everything. I'll be honest, it's going to make everything related to English very challenging. Okay, these pitch movements are
Yeah,
very important because your listener is listening for pitch. Okay, they're really attuned to this. Okay, what's up, to
yeah.
Let's hanging out with us. Okay, so can you read for me that a crust of bread part again?
A crust of, a crust of bread.
Okay, a crust of bread. You hear it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. A crust of bread versus a crust of bread. Mine's just again a little bit
A,
softer and smoother.
yeah.
Guess that's the thing you
A
need to
crust,
listen to. Okay.
a crust of bread. Bread.
Okay. So keeping all those concepts I just mentioned aside, in mind, but aside for a moment, can you read the entire first line? It's like a crust of bread and a corner to sleep in. Can you read all that for me?
A crust of bread and corner to sleep in.
Okay. So one of the things that happens, a central concept in English, is that whatever you do in one thought group, so whatever I do in this first thought group, I
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
do it
We have to
again.
change.
You got to
Yeah,
change
yeah.
it. You got to change it. And there's lots of ways to change. Okay, I have a whole webinar that I did just talking about 10 ways to add contrast to your speech. The problem is when I heard yours, I didn't hear any change. We didn't change pitches. We didn't change firmness or softness. We didn't change speed.
Yeah.
All these things are kind of repeating. So it's like a crust of bread and a corner to sleep in. Okay.
Yeah, actually, I forgot to change. change the thought, change the pitch. I forgot actually. Can I read this again?
Yeah, go for it.
A crust of bread and corner to sleeping.
Okay. That so what happened was you went lower in pitch there on the corner to, which is good, but the problem is you went really high on sleep. So one of the things we want to kind of think
Yeah.
about. Let's I'm gonna take away from it. Let's kind of just visualize things here. Give me a second. I'll share my screen again. How can I share this? Let's visualize what's happening with pitch. So if we're going to use pitch to create change, what's that going to actually look like? So we have two thought groups, right? So like crust of a crust of bread. So maybe this is our first thought group. So notice this is our first thought group. Uh
Mm.
crust. Hang on, I gotta visualize this. Okay. So this is our first thought group. Uh crust goes down, of goes down. Then we get to our stress. A crust of bread. This is our first thought group. First thought group. It's got a ceiling, it's got a floor, pitch wise. Okay? Here's our ceiling. And it has a floor. You could think of, like, when you say a sentence, you're basically like making a house. We're making floors of an apartment building or a hotel. Okay? Floors have ceilings and they have floors. When I change the thought group, I'm going to a new level. Okay?
Yeah.
So what's our next thought group? And a corner to sleep in, right? Okay?
Yeah.
So I'm on a new floor now. Let's maybe take it lower. A crust of bread and a corner the sleep in. Okay? Look at all these pitches that we're starting to use now. A crust of bread and a corner the sleep in. Do you see that in my second thought group, I'm in a whole new thought group now?
Yeah.
Whole new thought group. Whole new thought group. So the floor of my last thought group is now the ceiling of my next thought group because I went down a story. I went down a floor.
Yeah.
And I have a new ceiling and I have a new floor. Notice that none of these pitches and a corner to sleep in, none of these pitches is in the previous thought group. It doesn't always have to work out this way, but it can. So when I change the thought group, I have a whole new set of pitches to work with. I think for our perspective, as people who are practicing this, when you change the thought group, I'd like you to try to use pitch ranges that are new, that aren't in your previous thought group. Okay. What's one way you can practice this? Well, let's take this first thought group a lot higher in pitch. Okay, so instead of saying a crust of bread, can you take it higher? Can you say a crust of bread? A crust of bread.
A crust of bread. A
Hmm.
crust of bread.
Yeah, a crust of bread. Can you say that? A crust of bread. A crust of bread.
A, a crust of bread
Okay. And now let's take our second thought group extra low and a corner to sleep in.
and a corner to sleep in.
Try not to put so much weight on corner. It's not and a corner to sleep in because you're going to making it really choppy. And a corner to sleep in.
And a corner to sleep in.
Go a little weaker on corner still and a corner to sleep in.
And a corner to sleep in.
Okay, I really need you to watch this in the replay because you're still going real heavy on corner. You're like and a core, but I'm not going up in pitch. I'm going down. And a corner
Uh,
to sleep in. And
corner.
a corner to sleep in.
And a corner to sleep in.
Yeah, I really need you to listen because you're saying and a core, but I'm saying and a
Oh,
core. There's a difference there.
and a,
Okay, so
yeah.
I need you to
And a
practice your pitch
corner.
skills.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so like let's put all this all together from our first thought group to our second leg. So like we're going to start high. A crust of bread and a corner to sleep in.
A crust of bread and a corner to sleep in.
So as you're doing this transition, right now what's happening is your pitch on bread and your pitch on and is very similar. Like a crust of bread and I don't want that and to be so similar to
Yeah.
bread. Can we take and lower? Can you say bread and can you say it
Bread.
after me? Bread and
Bread and
that was almost the same. Bread and versus bread and lower in pitch.
bread and
Can you go lower than that?
bread and
Maybe it was even higher. It's like bread and versus bread and bread and
bread and bread and
your pitches are still very similar. So what's going to end up happening? If you're doing what you're doing right now, what's going to happen is you're going to say a crust of bread and a corner to sleep in. That's very similar pitch-wise. Versus if I do mine, like a crust of bread and a corner to sleep in. Do you see that I just have a wider range of pitches? Do you see that?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay. If I talk like the way that you're doing it with minimal pitch movements, I'm making my listener have to work harder because there's less separation between the things that I say. And it's going to make the whole experience a lot less dynamic and challenging in worst case scenarios. Because if I say a crust of bread and a corner to sleep in, there's not a lot of pitch range there. Versus a crust of bread and a corner to sleep in, that's much easier for my listener to experience. Okay, can you try that one more time for me?
A crust of bread and corner to sleep in.
Okay, I would like us to continue kind of exploring that pitch range. I want to make sure we have some other opportunities here to kind of practice some at least one other element of contrast. Okay, um, so we explored pitch there. Let's do a quick experiment with speed. We'll pull up our text again. Okay. Can you read for me that first line one more time?
A crust of bread and a corner to sleep in.
So I could do that one more time. We cut out briefly. One more time. I'm sorry.
A crust of a crust of bread and a corner to sleep in.
Okay, so you're like a crust of bread and a corner to sleep in. So one of the things that's happening here as well is we're at more or less the same pacing. We're more or less using the same sort of speed. What happens if... Can you say the whole first line really slowly for me? Everything's slow. A crust down to sleep in. Everything's slow. Can you do that for me?
A crust of bread and a corner to sleep in.
Okay. Can you read that whole line really fast, as fast as you can?
A crust of bread and corner to sleep in.
I think you go faster than that.
A crust of bread and a corner to sleep in.
I would say still pretty inconsistent. Can you try to keep everything at the same speed but fast?
A crust of bread and a corner to sleep in.
Okay. Can you say this starting really slow and then going faster, faster, faster? Like a crust of bread and a corner to sleep in.
A crust of bread and corner to sleep in.
Okay, one of the things that happened there, it wasn't very gradual. You were just really, really slow and then you just sped up. Can you make it more gradual? It's like a crust of bread and a corner to sleep in.
A crust of bread and corner to sleep in.
Okay. I would like you to continue practicing that gradualness, okay? Because we're still kind of really, really slow or really, really fast, but nothing in between. So trying to make it more gradual, okay? Now, speed is another tool that we can use to add some contrast here, okay? So what I'd like you to experiment with, can you say this first thought group slow? And then this second thought group fast? Can you do that for me?
A crust of bread and corner to sleeping.
That
Across the
was
board. Yeah,
very inconsistent. The slow one, you had some moments where you really went fast, and then the fast one, you had some moments where you really went slow. If you're going to go slow, go slow. If you're going to go fast, go fast. I don't want to have to think like, oh, did they go slow there? Did you go fast? I don't want to debate it. I want it to be very clear. It's like, yes, you were fast, or yes, you were slow. I don't want to have to debate or think about it. Okay, just take that first thought group slow. Take the second thought group fast. Can you do it again?
a, a cross of bread and corner to sleeping.
It's still very inconsistent. Okay, can you say that first thought group slow?
A crust of bread.
You're still notice the place where you're speeding up on is that crust of. You're like crust of, but the whole
A
thing's supposed
crust
to
of
be slow. Why are we speeding up? Can you say for me? Uh,
uh
can you say
uh cra
okay, crust of.
uh crust of
Okay, do the whole thought group slow.
uh crust of bread.
Why'd you go faster on bread?
Because bread is a stressful.
But the exercise is just go slow on everything.
Uh crust of bread.
Why are you going faster on bread?
I don't know.
I don't know
I
either.
just try
Can you go slow on everything?
uh a crust of bread.
Can you go slower than that?
Uh crust of bread.
Good. That was your best one. Very good. Okay. The second thought group, and a corner to sleep in. Can you say that fast?
And a corner to sleep in.
Don't stress corner. Just stress sleep. Can you do that?
And a corner and a corner to sleep in.
You're still stressing corner, just a note. But I'm going to pay attention just to speed. Can you do the whole thing fast?
A crust of bread and corner to sleep in.
Just the second thought group. Just the second thought group. So like and down to N. Can
And corner to sleep in.
you go faster than that?
And corner to sleep in.
Okay, I want you to read that whole first line, going slow on a crust of bread and then a faster on a corner to sleep in.
Uh, can I read again this line?
Yep, I want you to go slow on the first thought group and then fast on the second.
Uh, a crust of bread and corner to sleep in.
Can you go slower on the first thought group?
A crust of bread and corner to sleep in.
Yeah. I'll pause this there, but yeah, that's getting to it. So compare the very first time we read it at the beginning of our class today. Compare how you read it then versus how you read it now. Now we're starting to add some contrast. Now, the contrast becomes a lot more effective the more elements of contrast you add. So today we only looked at two. We looked at pitch and we looked at speed, but those are just two of them. Once we start adding in play with firmness and softness, as soon as we start adding in, changing where the stress falls, as soon as we start playing around with volume, the more elements of contrast we add, the richer the experience becomes. So we can take this from an experience where we just start off by saying this as like a crust of bread and a corner to sleep in. That's not a very dynamic reading. It's just not a. I would even make the argument it's not really an enjoyable experience to hear like a crust of bread and a corner to sleep in versus like a crust of bread and a corner to sleep in. So what I did there, I changed the speed, maybe a little firmer, and raised the pitch. Okay. It also makes it easier for your listener to pick up. So the last thing I'll say is if you're ever talking and people ask you to repeat yourself or they said they didn't hear you or they didn't understand you, a lot of times we think it's a pronunciation thing, but it's not actually a pronunciation thing. It's that we didn't have enough elements of contrast. So instead of
Yeah.
changing how you say the words, try instead to add more of these elements of contrast. Increase the pitch range. Speed something up, slow something down. these are going to be things that make it easier to understand. All right, I do have to head out, but Ghanshyam, did you have any questions for me
Yeah.
about anything we talked about today?
Yeah, I don't have a question, but when I watch your live classes and replay, I always do think this is really simple. But when it comes to uh, uh, talk to someone and learn something face to face, that time is a little difficult for me.
It's easy on the replay to like look at these exercises and think, "Oh, that's not that hard. I'll just do it myself." It's much harder when you're actually trying to do it. And here's the
Yeah,
thing:
yeah, yeah,
if you're having trouble doing it in an exercise with intention, then what are you doing out in the real world when you're actually communicating with people? You know, if it's hard now,
yeah,
then it's going to the difficulty only raises when you're actually trying to do this in real life. So this is why we need to practice with intentionality, okay? Because it's
yeah,
not just going to happen on its own.
yeah.
If Ganchim, thank you
I
for
will
hanging out,
watch the
man.
replay.
Yes,
I will
please do.
watch the replay and practice it.
Please do, man. Please do. I will see you later, okay? All
Okay,
right, take care, man. Bye.
bye.
Bye. Thanks to Gotcha for hanging out with us. By the way, if you found these sorts of exercises helpful, I do these sorts of exercises pretty much every day except Thursday. Um, you can find more information about them if you go to fluentamerican.com/magnetlab, where we help people go through similar exercises to become more dynamic speakers. Because I'm a firm believer that not only can you achieve a more natural sound, but you can actually achieve a sound that, honestly, in my opinion, is better than native speakers. And I want to show you how. I'll see you guys later. Hope you guys have a good day, have a good night, and a good afternoon. Take care, guys.